Listen, 5 things that you won't believe about raising your credit score. And I feel like the number 5 one is the most important, especially if you made previous mistakes on your credit. So definitely stick around to the end. Let's dive in. Number 1, the due date, and this may be contrary to popular belief, does not matter. And this is dealing with credit cards. And I'm going to say as much, dot, dot, dot. What do I mean? The due date does not matter as much. Yes, you want to make sure you pay your bills by the due date. I'm not saying that. But it doesn't matter as much because the date that's the most important is the date that they report to the main 3 bureaus. Usually they may say that this is going to be your statement date. They may say that this is the statement ending date. And you can run with that just in case you just want to have a date bookmark. But what I would recommend is that you call them. So, for example, if you have a card with, Capital One, give them a call and say, hey, what day of the month do you all report to the main 3 bureaus? They'll tell you. Once you have that date, you put it in your calendar. Once you put it in your calendar, now what you want to do is set a reminder to pay it a couple days before. And then once you pay it a couple days before, what you really want to do is make sure you don't use the card for a few days. So if I say that the due date is one date, but the day that they actually report is the 15th of every month. Let's just say, for example, they report the 15th of every month. What you want to do is pay it off around the 12th, a few days before, and then don't touch it for about a week. Don't touch it for about a week. For about a week, don't touch it. Then you can go to business as usual. Now, once you're in the habit of the process of making sure you have a low balance before the day that they report, low balance, and I get more in detail on what a low balance is by my definition. Once you do this on a month by month basis, it doesn't matter how much you use your card or how big of a percentage you have, as long as you understand when to pay it off and that the due date does not matter as much. So find out what the day is that they report on all of your credit cards across the board, and then set that reminder, make it a habit to start making sure you pay the most, lower the balance the most possible before they actually report. That's number 1. Number 2, as it relates to things you won't believe about raising your credit score, is that errors benefit you. And this is going to be contrary to popular belief as well. But errors benefit you. What do you know? And the reason why I say this may be contrary to popular belief, because a lot of times what people want to do is the first thing they want to do. And this does work. So I'm not here to bash it completely, entirely, and say it doesn't work. But the first thing they want to do is, and this is a good strategy, but sometimes it slows people down from making progress. I've seen people try to focus on this and they never get started in the first place. This is why I wanted to paint the picture of errors benefiting you. But the first thing people want to do is update their billing information. So they want to update their billing info so that everything matches. Yes, this can work so that way when you dispute, they're not able to connect dots to certain names and spellings and things of that nature. However, I say that you use the errors to your advantage. Use the errors to your advantage. What do I mean? Well, if errors benefit you, and what you're looking for is errors, inaccuracies, outdated information, unverifiable information, code violations, if you're looking for those things, then if they have your billing information off, meaning your name may be wrong, address may be wrong, date of birth or something may be wrong, balance may be wrong, dates may be wrong. If all of these things, and more so focus on the things that are connected to your personal information, but if all of these things are wrong, then you can dispute it based on the fact that there is an error. And now the error means that there's grounds for removal. Why? Because we use what's known as the FCRA. More on that later. that can help you leverage the errors. So I like to leverage the errors versus have a person that just worry about getting their billing info updated. Because what happens is people go through the process of trying to update their personal info, and sometimes it drags it out and they never get started because they're like, okay, I'm updating my personal information, making sure everything matches. And then they realize that their ID doesn't match their current address. So now their ID that they submit when they're going through the dispute process reveals an old address anyway. And the name that they updated it to might still differ somewhat from the ID. Now, unless they say they want to use the ID naming, then the billing, has to also match. So it's just a couple other hoops that people don't have to jump through if they just jump straight to the fact that, hey, it's errors on my report. Let me go ahead and dispute it based on those errors. That's number 2. The third one, and this is probably one of my favorite, but I think the 5th one is going to be the most important for those who have made mistakes. But the third one is you do not, I repeat, do not have to go into debt to build credit. You don't have to go into debt this day and age. I say it's one of my favorites because it allows anybody to get in the game and start building credit without borrowing money. At one point, you had to borrow money, get a car note, get a loan in order to start building credit. Well, nowadays, you have things like, and I'm going to just share one, and I'll link to it down below in case you want to use my link and I get credit, for you using my link. But one of them is self-lender. What it does is allow you to save money and build credit. Matter of fact, the link that, just in case I don't put it down there, you can go to bit.ly, all lowercase, save money, build credit. You can save money, build credit. What this does is allow you to save money but build credit, because each time you save money, it's counting as a on-time payment. So say, for example, you chose the option that allows you to save $25 a month and it builds your credit. Well, it reports to all 3 bureaus, and once you're saving that money, you never lose the money. It ends up transferring into typically some type of secure credit card based on the balance that you already have, so it can be helpful there. But that $25, you're paying it every month. They take out their fees, whatever that fee might be, but you still primarily keep majority of your money. But you're able to save money and build credit just by making those $25 payments. There are other options as well. You can do a little bit more, but I've seen this one thing help a person who had nothing but negatives on their report. Once they start doing that, their score increased over 200 points within 30 days. 200 points over 30 days. And that's, not the typical, especially when they didn't have to go in debt to do it. So they were up 200 points within 30 days just off of that strategy alone. Now, everything else on that report was negative, and we did remove a collection in that same process, but this played a key role in the process. So do not sleep on the fact that you can build credit without going into debt. Yes, there are things that can help you in terms of if you do acquire debt, you just have to do it responsibly. But it's not a must for you to acquire debt in order for you to build your credit. And that's, I think, liberating, especially if you're a parent, you have kids. I was talking to one of my buddies. He was asking ways that he can build his son's credit. And this is one of the things I told him. I was like, hey, yeah, this can help. This allows a person to build credit without going into debt. There are some other things I told him as well, but that's definitely one to add to the toolbox. Number 4 thing that you may not believe about building your credit score is under 30%, and this is dealing with credit cards, is not the best. Sometimes people are like, I just want to stay under 30%. Well, under 30% is better than having a balance of 90%, but it's not the best. The best is less than 5%. And people might not like this, but 0 is great as well. Some people are like, you got to have a balance. Yeah, sometimes, having that 1%, 2% is good, but it's still less than 5%. But 0% is great as well. 0% is great as well. But this shows that you do not need them. You're not depending on them. You're using it in an optional, responsible manner. And 2 things happen from this. This allows you to tap into up to 165 points per bureau, number 1. And it allows you to save on interest. So it doesn't matter if you have a high interest rate. If you keep a balance of 0 or less than 5%, then they can't charge you much because your balance isn't much, because the interest rate is based on the balance that you carry over. So this is critical and helps a lot of people save a lot of money, but also boost their score up to 165 points just by understanding the power in it. If you don't remember anything else about this video and you choose not to make it to step number 5, which I wouldn't recommend, remember this. Nonetheless, remember this right here. Under 5% gets you up to 165 points, saves you a ton on interest. You do that, you can hit all of the areas of credit just off of understanding this alone. Just wanted to make that clear. And last but certainly not least, in terms of the things that you may not know about raising your credit, that is probably the most important for those who have probably had some mistakes and errors, is that you are not alone. What do I mean? Well, sometimes people think that credit is an every man for themselves game. It is to a degree. You have your social security number, and, of course, nobody else has your social security number outside of the fraud and things that may take place. But you're not alone. What do I mean? Well, there are things in place already. Laws, codes, statutes, court cases that have already happened and taken place before you that you can use and leverage to your advantage to take your credit to the next level. So 2 of the codes that you want to definitely get familiar with, or, acts that have codes within them that you want to get very familiar with. I share some on this page, and this can help you delete collections, charge-offs, errors, inaccuracies, late payments, all of these things. Is you want to get familiar with the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and you want to get familiar with the FDCPA, which is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Understanding these positions you to use things that have already taken place to your advantage, codes and things that the credit reporting agencies or consumer reporting agencies, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and all the other dozens that are out there, if they're not reporting things accurately, because this is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, this is about credit reporting. Are they reporting accurately? If they're not reporting things accurately, then there's grounds for removal. Very important. So it's a lot of things you can use to advantage. This is what allows the errors to be to your benefit. When I talked about the errors being of benefit earlier, this allows that. And then the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, is dealing with the collectors, dealing with the debt collectors. So it's codes that they have to follow, and if they don't follow them, then there's grounds for removals as well as lawsuits. So you're not alone, because you have tons of data, tons of information, tons of codes, tons of court cases that you can use. Will everyone work for your situation? No. Will several of them work? Yes. It's a great chance that you have a situation that somebody else has dealt with multiple times. Nothing new under the sun. No, nothing new on the credit report. Everything has some type of connection point. That being said, these are the 5 things that I feel that you won't believe can help you with raising your credit. You let me know which one is your favorite one down below, and which one you can benefit from the most. But I have my favorites, but it's based on my perspective and things I've seen help clients. But all 5 of these are significant with helping you solidify a solid credit score. You know what to do, so do what you know. If you like this video, salute. Mr. Smith signing out.